Russ Sbriglia, my friend, for coming on and talking to me about his, should we say his new album, or we should say your collective new album? What should we say?
It's somewhere in between, but it's collective. My I have a bandmate, Rob Gock. So yeah, it's a group, but it's more or less, it's leaning more toward, closer to solo project. But yeah, it's a
Right.
group, it's a group endeavor.
Because you played all instruments but one, I think, right? Is that correct?
So I do everything except about like somewhere between a third and half of the guitars. We split between me and Rob, and then Rob also plays the Moog keyboard synthesizer on
Okay.
like 8 or 9 of the songs. Yeah,
Okay,
and he
cool.
also
And
he also co-wrote a few of the songs. So
okay, so let me just back up. So the
yeah.
group or the solo effort is called is by Ministry, and the album is called The Critique of Pure Desire. It's I just want to say a couple things first, because I think it's a
Wait, I
it's
have
a
to say,
real
wait, I have to interrupt for a second. It's
okay.
Ministry is another
Oh, you're right. I've totally
Misconstruity,
misconstrued.
but I wish we were
Yeah.
as big as Ministry. But yeah, I'll take it. I shouldn't have even said anything.
That's a funny slip by me. Yeah, Misconstruity. Sorry. And it's an amazing album because I don't know, and this is why I want to talk to you about it. I don't know of any other album that really brings to get like is so committed to being theoretical in its lyrics and brings that together with rock in the way that uh, you, Misconstruity, do it. So that's the main reason I wanted to talk to you. And some of the songs are just so inspired lyrically that I think it's really, I mean, they're great songs too. So I think people should really check it out. I listen to it quite a bit. So Russ was nice enough to send me a, what would you call it, an advanced copy, I guess, of the thing. But yeah,
Advance, yeah. There are a
yeah,
few of
yeah.
those.
It's
There's a couple floating around. Yeah.
floating around,
Ryan
right,
got
right.
one. So
Right. So yeah. So just can you just go back and say how it came about and what made you even think like, oh, this is something? Because I know you've done an, I think you've done an album under this title, this band title before, Misconstruity, right?
well, yeah, Misconstruity is like 25 years old.
Okay.
But very inactive for most of those 25 years. Um, yeah. So, first of all, thanks for having me on, Todd, to
Sure.
talk about this. It was I've been talking about it for a couple of years. It was a long project, mostly because I was just kind of doing it like in between work and other things I should be doing, or have to do. So, and I'm glad that you like or at least find the lyrics sort of interesting. Thanks for that compliment, because the lyrics are the absolute last thing that I do. The record, in fact, the record, which this is just a shameless plug, like the record comes out, it's out today. So, and you can it's going to be, eventually it'll be on Spotify and Apple and Amazon, everywhere, and to stream and to buy, but it's going to be exclusively for the first month through misconstruity.com. But we're taking orders for a digital copy. I think I sent you that one as well. A CD, and then we're hoping to get a vinyl version of it pressed if we get enough pre-orders. It'll be a cool like double. It's not a double album, but it's too long for a single, so it has to be
Right.
a double pressed on 2 vinyl. But so I just want to get that out of the way. But the whole album musically was actually 90 or 95% recorded before I even set pen to paper to write a single lyric. So I do all the music first, and actually at first I thought it was going to be my first inkling was to do something political and almost kind of like post-apocalyptic, and maybe I'll do something, but I'm not I don't know if I'm that kind of writer. I didn't feel
Right.
that
Right.
confident in it. And also, you'll like this. I just saw this a few days ago, but like a video from a few years ago with David Lynch, they're asking Lynch about politics in art, and he was like, absolutely not, but you can't approach it that way. And I don't know if I agree with him about that, because there's all kinds of political, like I love Rage Against the Machine and other political musicians, but I have a hard time sort of working that way. I kind of just go where things pull me, and then if it ends up being political, either directly or indirectly, it gets there. But yeah, the idea I ultimately landed on was Critique of Pure Desire, and to do it as more of a concept album where there are themes that, obviously when people hear it, run across and through a number of the songs.
Right. So I just want to talk about the title of the album for a
Yeah.
minute. So obviously there's Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason.
Yeah.
So how did you land on Critique of Pure Desire as a, and I mean, I know it's funny because there are a lot of critique of in the spirit of Kant, like Gayatri Spivak has Critique of Post-Colonial Reason. Peter Sloterdijk has Critique of Cynical Reason, I think. So
Yeah.
you've kept the pure and you've changed the final signifier. So just can you talk about was it, and there's not much Kant in here, I don't think. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's not really, I wouldn't call it a Kantian album. It's much more, I mean, the inspiration seems much more Lacan centered. Like there's a lot of references to Lacan and also to your other specialty of American literature. I think there's some echoes of, not even echoes, just direct allusions to that in there. So how did that come about in terms of what you decided to choose? Because I really like it as an album title. I mean, it'd be a good title for a book too. So
So I mean, like a lot of stuff, I shamelessly took it from Slavoj Žižek. So Slavoj,
but he doesn't have a book called that, does he?
He does not have a book called that, which I was I mean, if he did, I obviously wouldn't have titled it, and I don't think he has any plans to. But so basically, this is where my sort of academic work merged with the album, because the fifth song on the album, we've released it as a single. It's called The Presentiment and the Verification, and it's a take on all the songs are all 10 of the songs are based on either 7 of them are works of literature, 3 of them are films, and they're not like, they are in a way like, this is a Hawthorne term, like twice told tales, at least, because I didn't write an original story for them, but they're all a psychoanalytic interpretation. They're all a reading of the text. So it's not like just a straightforward retelling. So the Melville song, Presentiment and the Verification, is about like literally Lacan's idea of gaze and voice as 2 different love objects or versions of the objet petit a. And so Slavoj has this great argument great reading of Lacan's famous essay Kant avec Sade, right, where he says that like Adorno and Horkheimer, for instance, their reading of it, they have of Kant with Sade, they have it backwards. And what Lacan is actually trying to do is and people like Danny Nobis has a critique of this reading, right? But his argument,
I was just gonna let me interrupt you, because I do think it's interesting that this is I mean, I even tend to agree with Danny. Like I think Slavoj's right theoretically, but wrong Lacanianly, right? Like I think as a reading, I think Danny is right that what Lacan means is closer to the Adorno Horkheimer point. But I think what Slavoj is saying is much more interesting. Anyway, go ahead.
His argument is essentially that and this actually is part of the CD and album and vinyl. There's a passage from one of Slavoj's more recent books where he's used it earlier than that. I think as early as his like Kant with or against Sade from like the early 90s, where he uses that phrase critique of pure desire. But Zizek's argument is that what Lacan does is, his argument is that whereas Kant claims that desire, so Kant relegates desire to the pathological, or to the sensuous, right? So if you desire something, it's not it's not noumenal, it's not reason, it's not pure reason, right? And so
Well, it's
Slavoy's
not
argument
ethical,
is
right?
it's not ethical for sure, right?
Right, right,
Because
right.
this is all in like from the ethics seminar, from seminar 7,
right.
right? Or at least he addresses it there as well as in Khan of Exod. But Slavoy's reading of it is that for Lacan, it's that actually desire is it does have a non-pathological, I think at one point he even says like quasi-transcendental element to it. And that is what Lacan in his reading of Antigone calls pure desire. And so it's the idea that desire does have this non-pathological quality to it, meaning that essentially like desire and pure desire, there's all kinds of readings where that can actually just, maybe is that another term for death drive? But that pure desire is in a way non-pathological, meaning sort of selfless. Oftentimes to follow your desire, to not give ground relative to your desire, as Lacan says in Seminar 7, is ultimately, it's not a gain. It's a loss of self in the sense of ego or identity. It's actually like that. This is why a lot of the examples of the songs and in Lacan, to not give ground relative to your desire equals or leads to death. And that's not to say death drive is the same as death. It's not. But yeah, I'll stop there.
No,
for a second.
it's really good. I mean, I think it comes to it leads me. I'll say later what I thought my favorite song was and why, because I think it's really, there's one that's really interesting in its, I mean, I think in its take on literature, that's not the typical take, but it brings me to the second song, which I think is the one. I don't know if this was the one that it seems like a seminal song it's called Let Them Rot. It's about Antigone. And I don't know if Alenka had written the book called Let Them Rot when you had conceived it or not. Yeah, she had. Okay. So the title is explicitly alluding to that.
I wrote to her and cleared it and made sure that she was okay with it. Yeah.
You didn't just steal her title.
I did my due diligence. I mean, I did steal it, but yeah.
Good. But I think, and so that one of the things that's interesting about that song is Slavoj reads a little paragraph. Yeah. Is it from his own writing or did you write that?
No, that's his own. That's my dog Cooper's up here trying to hop up on my lap. No, he. So what I did, and this is actually the same as the passage of his that on Critique of Pure Desire, where he more or less defines it. That's included in the whole album, sort of artwork and booklet. Is that when I wrote that song, or when I was working on the lyrics, or sometimes usually I'll come up with a vocal melody first, and I'll kind of just sing nonsense to that melody to get the melody down, and then I'll go in and sort of fill in the lyrics and make everything line up. And I kind of like that in a way, because then it forces me. I'm sure there are people who start with lyrics first or do them simultaneously and would find that really like almost like being put in jail or constricting, because the iterations of your chorus, your verse, everything is already, that box is already there, and then I have to just fill the container basically. Right, I can't decide unless I want to do some serious like editing work. Oh, let's extend that verse and make it twice as long because the music's already recorded. But when I had the idea, when I finally figured out, oh, let's make it about Antigone, and Antigone, Alenka Zupancic, as you said, has this book, Let Them Rot, Antigone's Parallax. And so the song is heavily influenced not just by Slavoj, but also by Alenka's book, is that I had that midsection with Slavoj's voice. I had no idea what to do with that lyrically. And then I just decided I'll see if I can get Slavoj to read something for it. And he's written in various, there's passages in numerous books. He wrote that version, like a rewrite of Antigone that has an essay preceding it, right? So what I did was, I basically took all the PDFs and collated like almost all of his commentary on Antigone and narrowed it down to, I knew the part is 1 minute and 6 seconds. So what can he read in a minute and 66 seconds. So I kept cutting it down, and then the next time he was here, he recorded here with the same microphone I'm using right now, and he didn't even hear the song. He didn't hear the part. He didn't hear anything. He
Did
said,
you need to
okay, like
speed up his voice at all, or
no.
it
What
fit
I did was I ended up having to cut. I cut like half of a line or something because it wasn't fitting. So there was a little bit of manipulation as far as like the content, but the speed, what you hear is exactly how. I'll send you the original. He did it in 3 takes. He did it, but no. So he looked at it. I was like, "Is this okay?" He's like, "Yeah, this is like basically like this is correct." Like I wrote, and so I sort of cobbled together a few different things and kind of highlighted the high points, and that's the same thing that I did. The passage that's not audio, but that's written in the album art. That's from his a more recent book, "Sex and the Failed Absolute." That is kind of it's like 90% the same, but it's a little bit repurposed for the album. But yeah,
right?
that's how that part from "Let Them Rot" came about.
That's cool. I mean, so it's interesting because I think the thing that jumped out to me, and you've already alluded to this seminar already, but the thing that jumped out to me about the album as I listened to it is obviously the influence of psychoanalysis and psychoanalytic thinking, Lacan's thinking, but specifically Seminar 7, as if that's the driving seminar. And which is a seminar, the subtitle of it is The Ethics of Psychoanalysis. It's from 1959 to 1960. And it's interesting because I think of that seminar as a bit of, I think I've written this as a hapax. It's kind of between two periods.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Lacan himself never says the only thing you can be guilty of is having given ground relative to your desire. He never repeats that
Right.
famous line from there. So I wonder if you could say, I'm not questioning your choice. I'm just curious, why was it just because of there? I think that seminar does have a lot of references, so that I think is really rich in that way, and it also has, I would say, it has more quotable lines maybe than any other part of Lacan. I wonder,
Yeah.
I mean, what was really, and it was all, and also I think is undeniably the most influential of
Yeah.
his seminars on people. So what of those reasons, maybe all, maybe none, were shaped, and was it true that that is really that seminar that's the driving force behind the record?
I think that's right. I mean, I didn't. It's interesting to talk about it from a theory standpoint because I didn't. I wasn't thinking. Oh, I'm using like I'm referencing Seminar 7 a lot, or like Seminar 7 is at. But I do think the ethics seminar is at the core of it because it's at the core of the presentiment and verification, the Melville song, because that's all about the people. It's a few people in amongst the general public. It's really just like 19th century Americanists who read Melville's. I mean, you've read it, Melville's novel
Yeah.
Pierre, but that's all about like an event literally happening, and then the title character undoing his entire life based upon his confrontation with gaze and voice. And so it is an ethical quandary that he's in. And so that clearly, I mean, it's the Ethics of Psychoanalysis seminar where Lacan has about, I don't know, 70 or so pages on Antigone, and Antigone as this example of pure desire. And then I'm trying to think of a few of the
But does
other
he? I
songs
don't
that
think
might
he
touch
ever
upon that.
mentions. I don't think Lacan ever mentions Melville anywhere, does he?
He doesn't. He doesn't.
It's a shame
I've,
because don't you
yeah,
think it's weird that, because obviously, I mean, Moby Dick, by the time,
yeah,
I mean, even at 1959, it would have been very well
yes.
known
I mean,
novel,
Sartre was writing about it at pretty much the same time, like in the
right, and
50s. Yeah,
right, and Lacan, his English was, I mean, there would be a French translation, but he could
right.
have easily read it in English.
Yeah,
So it's just curious that when he went to talk about Das Ding, that he didn't think about Moby Dick, right? Like that's a real.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
yeah, but that's not. I mean,
yeah,
I'm it's kind of a field from your thing because I don't. I mean, Das Ding isn't really a a factor in what you're in this album. I don't think so much, right?
Not so much. Well, actually, so not explicitly in the lyrics, but the fourth song, D'entre les Morts, is about. I mean, that's the original title of the novel that Hitchcock's Vertigo is based on, and that's essentially, and it's from the perspective of Scotty,
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart, and that's really the sort of fantasy of woman as thing.
Yeah.
So woman as dot sting, and then also it's very indirect, although it's more direct in the chorus, but in presentment and verification, the Isabel in that chorus is woman as thing, but it's so that's a connection there, but it's not.
It's not
Dusting wasn't like
explicit.
directly
Right. Right.
at the forefront of my mind in the way that other Lacanian concepts were. But it's funny that it like similarly, like, I mean, you've talked about and written about this as well, but that Das Ding falls out after Seminar 7 as well. It goes away, and it's objet. It's objet. I mean, you can have a discussion about whether they're the same. I don't know if they are, but that certainly replaces the role that Das Ding plays in that seminar going forward, right?
Well, it's, I mean, the real oddity is that it disappears even in the seminar itself, right? Like, he introduces it, and then when he describes the ethics of psychoanalysis, he never talks about Das Ding one single time. So that's kind of, so that makes sense why you're not making if this is about the critique of your desire and about the ethics of desire,
right?
It makes sense that you're not really making Das Ding so central. I mean, I love the Awakening song. I think it's really great. Do you want to talk about the different works that you're alluding to, just to let people know which song, in case they want to just go on Spotify and listen to a certain song that corresponds to a certain work?
Yeah. So I mean, if people go to, I mean, I hope people buy the record in some way, shape, or form, but if people go to,
but I'm not advising against that. I'm advising first they get a little, it's like a little taste, and then
so half the album is on YouTube and everywhere else streaming. But so the opener, there's the first song is called Oedipus Rex, but it's Rex,
which is
W-R-E-C.
Dick, right? Because it's, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah. We know what that was.
Well, I mean, you know what I'm not, people will recognize this already. I didn't come up with that pun, Oedipus Rex. I mean, I'm sure someone else did, but who definitely did was Woody Allen. And it seems appropriate that he was the one who came up with Oedipus Rex. So I'm trying to reclaim that from him maybe. But so there's
a terrible movie though, I have to say.
It's terrible.
It's unwatchably bad.
So Oedipus, that's the opener. Then there's Antigone, Let Them Rot. The subtitle of that is Antigone Between the Two Deaths, which is also from Seminar 7. Then the third song is about Hamlet, and it's actually written from the perspective of the father, right? The ghost. Then there's the Vertigo song.
It's called To Whet Thy Almost Blunted Purpose, right?
Right. To Whet Thy Almost Blunted Purpose, which is one of the things. That was one of the last songs. That was the second last song to be titled. I think I titled that like a week before everything was finished.
Great title. Yeah.
But that is one of the things.
Did you get permission? Did you get permission from Shakespeare to
I dug him up, and I found Yorick's head there as well, which was great. But
that is great.
That's one, and that's something that the ghost, Hamlet's father, says to him, like, because he's procrastinating. Like, I've come back to whet thy almost blunted purpose. And then D'entre les Morts is the Vertigo one. Presentment Verification is Melville's Pierre. We'll talk more about the Awakening song, but that's called Waking Aphrodite. Then there's Carnival, which was another single that's the first single we released. And I kind of cheated with that one because that one is probably like the least explicitly related to the theme of the album. And then Citadel is about Blade Runner.
What is Carnival referencing? What's it referencing? It's just.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Is it? What is
Oh,
Carnival referencing?
Carnival is about it's a sort of retelling of Poe's tale, The Cask of Amontillado, except instead of the perspective of Montresor, who is the person who commits the murder, right? He inters Fortunato, supposedly his friend. He buries him alive, but to go along with like the haunting sort of undead theme of the record, the song is told from Fortunato's, like the ghost of Fortunato's. I'm just realizing now there are like many ghostly songs. So that's what that one is about. The eighth song, Citadel, is about Blade Runner, and that one's told from the perspective of Roy Batty. And it's basically questioning the human, non-human, or human post-human divide, and a sort of a meditation on subjectivity does not equal human. Or and then the last, I'm trying to think, that's 8. Oh, 9. Oh, Melangini is evil genius, and that's like a mashup of, it's really Poe's Imp of the Perverse, which is also like Slavoj has this great reading that I've written about and built upon, about what Edgar Allan Poe calls perverseness, or the imp of the perverse, as a version of the moral law, in a way, because insofar as it's non-pathological, and there's a relation there to Death Drive, clearly, I think, but that one also draws on Descartes, and I think there's like a reference to the Black Cat, which is another story of Poe's in which perverseness appears.
Yeah, I think that's really good, and I think I really like the way in which that song, because it's a term for, just to let people know if they don't know, that's a term from Descartes, which translates into evil. What's the usual translation? Evil genius,
demon, evil genius, evil genie.
Yeah. It's weirdly translated actually, because it really just means like clever genius. Or evil, I guess evil. But
deceiver.
But certainly genius would be part of it. But I liked the way in which that connected. That idea is because I think this is, I don't know if Slavoj has made this explicit, maybe he has, in like probably in the ticklish subject of Nowhere Else, this connection between Death Drive and Cartesian subjectivity, right? And I think that seemed like that's what you were doing, but also that's Descartes' first image that he gives in the Meditations for God, right? Like, it's not, that ultimately isn't what he thinks God is, but it is certainly his first. He's like, let's imagine that God is this evil genius, right? And so I really like the way in which what you're suggesting is that maybe God is in this imp of the perverse, or this Death Drive, or something like that. So I think that was a really...
that's really good. And I think that connects to something that not just Zizek, but that the Ljubljana school, like Alenka has written about this. I'm not sure if Mladen has. I know Joan Kopchak disagrees with this because she's more of a Kantian, but it would be the idea that it represents diabolical evil, right? So that good and bad are dialectically like immanent, as opposed to these opposite forces, right? Like, that's the problem, is that Kant raises the much like Descartes raising the specter of the evil genius, and then dispatching with it, I don't think very convincingly, but Kant raises the specter of diabolical evil, a purely evil reason, and he immediately backs away from it. And Slavoj's reading is actually, and I think that's actually related somewhat to Death Drive, and the subject's freedom, because the moral law doesn't tell, right? It's contentless. It tells you to do your duty, but it does not tell you what that duty is. And so that's what, like, the sort of que voy, or what does the other want, that can hystericize the subject. But that's why Slavoj will say freedom hurts, because you have to make a decision, and it what you do may be the highest good, but it may be diabolically evil, and so that was one of the things that I thought that theme matched with the sort of tone of the song. So I was happy that I was really happy with how that one came together. And that song has well, I'm not going to say it. I don't want to spoil it for for people. But there's a callback to one of the previous songs in that one that I've wanted to do for like I've always wanted to do that because I love the way that on Dark Side of the Moon that Breathe comes back toward the end of Is It Time? And then of course, like the Beatles Abbey Road medley, You Never Give Me Your Money comes back in Golden Slumbers. So there's something like that happens at the except much worse than either of those bands.
Right, and I think I mean one thing again that just to let people know Alenka Zupancic develops this argument about diabolical evil mostly in her book. I've just forgot the name of her first book, the book on Kant and
Ethics of the Real.
Ethics of the Real. Thanks. Yeah. And then Jones, I think Joan edited a collection called Radical Evil, where I think it's in a footnote. She says, "I reject this idea."
It's right in like the introduction, right? It's like a page or two into it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in her essay, and it is true that and Kant brings up diabolical evil to reject it in a later, not in the earlier stuff on ethics and in the Critique of Pure Reason, but later in this book, Religion Within the
Beyond, is it beyond the
within the limits of reason alone, and that's the point of contention. But I think it's pretty convincing that the reason why and this is the point that Alenka makes in Ethics of the Real, is that he rejects it because it's too proximate to the moral law, and just like you said, it's formally the same, and so it's just the content's different. So I think I really liked that song, and I really also liked the way in which it's a kind of just again this connection between Cartesian subjectivity and Poe, for instance, but also and Death Drive
for sure.
And then to Kant, I think really, I think that's pretty convincing, and it's a great song too. Just the sound of it.
And then the last one, the last one is I put the check in the mail, so you'll get it any day now. The last song is called Future History, and that's about the short film La Jetée. And some people might be more familiar with the Terry Gilliam like full feature remake as 12 Monkeys with Bruce Willis, and who else is in that? Is it
Madeline Stowe? I think
Madeline. That's right.
Brad Pitt. That's great. That's great. Right. Brad Pitt performance.
And that is on the surface of it that it's about that short film. If you haven't seen La Jetée, it really changed my life when I was like not the same after I saw that film.
It's only a half hour of your life, so you can really spare the time. So and it's an amazing film. I agree. But, although I have to say, don't you think 12 Monkeys is pretty good? It's pretty
12
good.
Monkeys is great. 12 Monkeys is great. And there's also what's also funny is that there are a few very subtle nods, maybe not so subtle, but there are a few nods to Vertigo in La Jetée, and then Gilliam plays that up much more in 12 Monkeys, right? They go to see a screening of Vertigo at some point. So there's a connection there within the album. But what I focused on for the purposes of that song, I don't want to do I'm not going to spoil it, but because I really do hope people see that film, La Jetée. But it's about time travel. And so I just sort of seized on and memory as a way to time travel. So I seized on that as an opportunity to write about Nachträglichkeit and the après coup, in that the scientific question, raised by, I think, like Back to the Future and everything, is time travel possible? And I think like psychoanalysis would say absolutely. Not literally, but we travel into, like, anytime there's a return of the repressed, that is a form of time travel in a way. Even though, of course, like the psychoanalytic point is that the original trauma or the original loss is always retroactively generated, but still there is an element of like a shift in temporality there that changes your subjectivity.
Right, and this gets developed not that significantly. It's more of a Lacan's idea, but Freud is the first to develop it in his 1895 project for a scientific psychology, and he talks about, I think her name is just is it Elizabeth, or I forget the name of the patient, but it's exactly like you described, Russ, and I think that it's great to connect that to La Jetée, and you're right, 12 Monkeys really leans into that. And I like the way that actual time travel functions as a metaphor for this retroactivity. I think that's really, really good. And I think your song really captures that well. I wonder if we could talk, because this is my favorite song, and I like the way you put, my favorite song is To Wet Thy Almost Blunted Purpose.
Your favorite one? Okay, I love that song. That's the ones that Rob. That one is a true collaboration. Some songs were more like I wrote almost in the entirety of it, and then Rob would add like a couple parts here and there. But that's one of the ones where the main recurring guitar riff that the song begins with, he wrote that, and I was like, that's great. And then I built the rest of the song up around that. So,
okay. So sorry, I didn't mean to pick the one that you didn't do yourself.
No, I just wanted to. No, because I do like that song. I'm proud of the whole record. I think I told you before, like,
yeah,
a lot of musicians think, if you ask them, and I would gladly, I think there were like 2 or 3 duds. Some people say maybe 10 duds on the last record, but I'm really proud and happy with how all the songs turned out. But this one is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, and I think it's like the Cask of Amontillado one. Like, I really like the way that you flip the perspective, because I think when you're watching or reading Hamlet, you never think, oh, what must be the ghost's perspective on things, right? Like, you never think that. And even when he said, because even when he appears, is it Act 4 when he appears to him when he's with Gertrude? Is that when the line you're quoting, or is it Act 3? I don't know.
Yeah, it is that scene, but I can't remember the act and scene number.
I don't remember either, but
that's correct.
That is when it is. You're right, and it's interesting because what's interesting is that the change in the status of the ghost, right? Because in Act 1, the other characters can see him. In fact, they see him first. Yeah. And then in this later scene, when he says the line "To wet thy almost blunted purpose," he only Hamlet can see him. Right. And so that's why I thought this is such a great idea for a title, because it's almost the perspective of someone. What is the perspective of someone who doesn't exist? Right. Like, that's because I think, and Gertrude says to Hamlet, it's just a specter of your mind. It's not.
I know. I was trying to think of what she actually, like, what the line was, but I would totally butcher it. But yeah, she can't. Yeah. It's not like when he first appears, because who is it at the beginning? It's the the soldiers see him at the beginning before Hamlet even sees him, right?
Right. So it's Marcellus, and I don't know. Yeah. And they see and then they bring Horatio, and then they bring Hamlet. So.
And they bring Hamlet.
There's 2 sightings prior to Hamlet's sighting. So it's clearly not just this I think, what did she say? Like an imagining of your mind or something. I don't remember the exact line either.
But then,
But yeah. So I really liked that the line that you chose, and then the perspective is of this could just really be his own. Like, what would it be to be seen from the perspective of our own phantasm? That
and it's interesting really that he appears, because that's at the point. It's right after he's Hamlet is haranguing Gertrude, and he's literally holding up the two different portraits of, here's what a falling off there was with, his father's up here and the uncle is right, and then that's when the father appears like shortly after that, right?
Yeah, I know. Hillary's parents do that with pictures of her old boyfriend and me. They're like, "What a falling off this was." So I did that scene really resonates with me for that reason.
They
But yeah,
they still do this.
they still do that. Yeah, yeah.
This is like it's like the holiday ritual. Is this what happens every? Yeah.
They're in their 80s, but they get a kick out of it. They're kind of they're like the least jokers in the world.
God.
They would never. They think I'm like a crazy. Uh, well, I don't know what, but anyway. So I just think it was so just the cleverness of it really struck me, and the theoretical acumen. And I just want to say this about the whole album again. I am expecting that check soon. People think that I'm paid by like Under Armour or something. So they should know I have never accepted any money for anything or product placement. Except I do want to support your CD because I think it's really amazing. Not because
what I did just to interrupt you for a second. I forgot I should have revealed this earlier. But out of respect, I didn't even do this when Slavoy was here because it's a pain in the ass to do this. But check out the front of my bass drum.
Wow!
Can you see it?
Wow! I do see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the so John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, who's probably he's one of the most famous, greatest drummers, but he had the Borromean knot, but for him it was I think it was
what
the
did
same
it mean
as
for him?
Well, it was Ballantine beer. The Ballantine beer had it on there.
That John Bonham would have a beer logo on
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
no, it was more than that. He read about it and he was like like mother, father, son, but I'm just going to appropriate it for RSI. So
yeah, that's great. That's really great. I mean, I think that here's what I was saying in the process of saying. Like, I think that I just think that the album really this never happens. I think to me, it never happened to me. Like even when I'm listening to whatever, like Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, and I hear the Ode to Joy, I'm not like, oh, there's some great insights there. I never think that, but I do think that it actually you're listening, and you're like, oh wow, that's theoretically interesting because it's a take on something that we have a usual view of, and you're not just getting it musically, but you're getting a distorted take on the thing that we usually are thinking about. So I really appreciate that. I thought I don't mean this, I mean this in the best way, but I thought every song could have been an essay almost, right? Like it had a clear, I mean, it's not thesis-y. And I think your comment about politics really speaks to this. It wasn't thesis-y, but it has a clear point, and I really appreciated that. And so I feel like you really get something from it, from listening. I mean, the music I think is really good, but I think just listening along, you get into the lyrics. And the lyrics, I have to say, I was going to compare you to REM because you know that when you described your process, that Mike Mills and Peter Buck would write the music, and then they would give it. They didn't record it, so it's not exactly like you, but they would give it to Michael Stipe, and then he would come up with the lyrics. So it was total division of labor, and the music came first.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like the way you did it. You're the one person, but it's still the same thing. And you recorded the music, which is different. But I
appreciate that, Todd.
Yeah, I mean, I love REM, but I think that really the way that you're able to bring the theory into the music is, and what I was comparing to REM because I like Michael Stipe's lyrics, but you have no idea what he's saying most of the time, right? And I just want to say, I don't know how I would classify the genre. I played it for one of my sons, and he's like, "This is heavy metal." I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I would just say it's kind of alternative rock kind of something. But it's you can understand what you're saying. That's what the point I was leading to with all that babbling.
Yes.
And
Well,
I think it's that's important because I mean you're going to have the lyrics in the liner notes, but I think or they are in the liner notes, but I think it's really important that you can, as you're listening, you can really hear what you're
just
saying.
literally on a level of like on the musical level of the audibility of the voice, where it's
Right.
sitting in the mix. Okay.
Right. No, right. But also the way you enunciate the words.
Oh, okay.
Unlike, like, I think, I don't know, you were just saying this, that you kind of start out with just made up words. I mean, that's how most of us listen to music, right? We make up our own words that we put into things. And I still have songs that are 40 years old that I still do that too. But I could just look up online what the real lyrics are, but I like mine better. But I think you don't do that with this album, which I think is really, but you're right. Like it's not just the enunciation, it's also the volume level of the mixing of it, which I think is really sounds really good.
The vocals are super. Most lead tracks are either just single or a double. A lot of them are like I think almost all the choruses are doubled, but there's also a lot of harmonies because what happened was the music was the lyrics were this is why I'm glad I'm happy that you like the lyrics and think that it's strong lyrically, because I had a lot of confidence in the music, and I knew that it sounded good musically, but that created more pressure for the lyrics to actually be somewhat, and the vocal performances too, to be at least comparable or somewhat on par to the music. So that was actually writing music is rarely stressful for me, but writing lyrics can be stressful. Yeah.
Well, I obviously I don't know anything about that, but I think that doesn't come across in the work. It feels like, I mean, the music is really good, as I said, but I think the lyrics, I mean, that's what stands out to me, is like how amazing theoretically and interesting the lyrics are. And I think I really don't know of it. This is why the really reason why I want to talk to you about this. I don't know of another album that's trying to do that, really, because I think that isn't the danger of doing something like this is that it becomes a thesis, right? Like you're just articulating a thesis. And I have to say, it never feels like that when you're listening to any of the songs.
I told you I was worried not so much about it being a thesis or being like preachy, but I was worried, like, and maybe some people will feel like this, but is it too much repetition? Not in the music, but of the recurring theme. I mean, Death Drive plays a central role in a lot of the songs. So I was a little bit worried about that, but even more so than being worried about like a thesis is it, because the last Misconstruity record we average one every 10 years. The last one was from, I mean, that's also Lacanian. It's called K Voy and literally has the graph of desire on the cover of it.
Right.
But I didn't envision that as a concept album, and like half the songs have nothing to do with psychoanalysis or anything, and they're more accessible. So my worry was, is this going to be like totally insider baseball and totally like, is anyone outside of Lacan and psychoanalysis is this going to connect with anyone? And I think that I just kind of gave up worrying about that, and it's for whoever connects with it. But I do think, I'm not sure if that's true of all the songs, but my hope would be that they also kind of work. There's I mentioned Rage Against the Machine earlier. There's famously, like, Paul Ryan said years ago, like his favorite band was Rage Against the Machine, and there are all these like conservatives who are finding out that Rage Against the Machine's like, were you listening to what they've been saying? Like, what do you think they're raging against? Like, but but that sort of proves that, like, based on the music alone or the mouth, like, people can still connect with it, even if they're like a conservative who, wants to become the machine. Like, they can still sort of
Right.
connect with it. So yeah.
No, of course, right? Like Ted Cruz loves Princess Bride, so you can always, you can
Right.
always,
Yeah.
you can always have that kind of reading.
Yeah.
Maybe Ted Cruz will like Critique of Pure Desire too. We can only
Yeah. I'm
hope.
not sending him a
Um,
check, but yeah, I'll
I
send
don't
it to
know.
Cancun or wherever he is when a crisis happens.
That's only when tragedy strikes, man. I mean, when things are
Yeah. Yeah. When
going good.
tragedy strikes. Yeah. Yeah.
He's right here. He's right here when things are going good. Okay, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
I mean, no, I mean, we think we covered quite a bit. I mean, just again, like, I really appreciate you having me on to talk about it. I mean, most of my friends and people, even just like in academia, know that I'm also a musician, but um, I haven't I haven't done anything as forward facing as this in a while. So I appreciate you having me on to talk about the record and for all the kind words about it. And I just want to say again, the album, it will be, if you're already subscribing to, or you're already paying for some monthly streaming service or whatever. As of October 1st, the record will be up on Spotify and Amazon and Apple and everything. But um, until then, it comes out today, the 22nd. And you can get it at misconstruity.com. And it's available digital download, CD, and then you can pre-order the vinyl. We have to reach a certain, it indicates this on the online store. We need to hit a certain amount of pre-sales before we can sell the vinyl. And if it turns out that doesn't happen, we'll refund everybody minus the $10 for the digital download, because the CD and vinyl both come with the digital download for free.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
yeah.
would just,
But
I
that's,
would
other
just
than
say,
that, I'm good.
okay. I just think, don't you think people should have more? I mean, this is going to sound, I'm an anti-capitalist, but I think that people should have more things. Like, I think we should stop buying streaming services and things like that,
Well,
and go back to CDs and DVDs. But that's a topic for another day. But I do think I'm going to buy my own DVD, even though
the
you've
physical
sent me
media.
the CD. I like the physical media. Just like a book. I mean, I don't want a PDF. I want a
I'm
real
the
book.
same way. I'm the same way.
Yeah, yeah. Same thing with everything. Okay. Great talking to you, Russ. And again, I can't. I love the album. So congratulations on it coming out.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Sure.